what are the moral arguments that atheists often use against Christians?
There are two main things that I've found atheists will often bring up, which is that the Bible supports slavery and the Bible supports genocide.
Well, that first one hits a little close to home for me. So let's figure out what's your best defense against that moral argument.
So with slavery, what atheists will often bring up is there's a verse I believe in Leviticus, and it basically says you can buy slaves within these certain requirements, and so atheists would point to there. So if you believe the Bible, you believe that it's okay to buy slaves, and so there are several problems with that. First, the slavery in the Old Testament context, there's a difference between Old Testament slavery and New Testament slavery, and they have to be addressed separately. In the Old Testament context, slavery was generally done in basically it was a prisoner of war type situation. When you invaded a country, when you had killed all the soldiers, if you were to simply leave the survivors alone, then they would starve to death, they would die. And so what slavery did was it allowed a way for them to continue to be fed, to be cared for, while still ensuring there is no attempts at rebellion or anything like that. So effectively, the alternative to slavery in this situation was not freedom and equal rights and stuff, it was death, basically. So that's interesting coming for the second objection, which I'll deal with later, that the Bible supports genocide. Slavery was a way to avoid genocide. There are also regulations in the Bible about how you can treat your slaves. So you can't kill your slaves, you can't harm your slaves in any serious fashion. There were ways to make sure that slaves were treated as human beings and not just as property.
Not only that, in the Old Testament, because I've done a little research myself, I think it's rather important that African American Christians look into this issue, because you will be met with this objection often, is that sometimes that slave-master relationship, as Austin is saying, to protect from genocide, also it's was to keep from starvation. So you could actually go to somebody that you knew and say, I want to bring myself under your service, so that they would be provided with food, shelter, and protection. And sometimes that master-slave relationship was so beautiful that they actually, at the end of the 7-year term, wasn't it? That's how long you could keep a slave. Yeah. That relationship often was so wonderful that they often said, I want to be a part of your family and serve you forever. Now, how do we address New Testament slavery?
So New Testament slavery is a bit different. With New Testament slavery, it's often someone had a debt that they were trying to pay off. So if someone had gone into too deep in a debt, if they would just work to pay it off. We have similar situations even now in the US. If you commit a crime and you have to pay a certain amount that you can't pay, then you will often have to work to do an amount of work that will create that cash value that you have to pay. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that they were always treated well, which is why, again, the Bible kind of alters that. The Bible actually says that Christian slave owners should treat their Christian slaves as brothers, meaning as equals. And I would actually argue that this laid the groundworks for slavery eventually being abolished, because you can't treat someone as your property while treating them as your equal as well. It's not going to work. At one point, something has to give. And so if you're following the Bible, eventually you're going to have to end slavery. It's also important, when we think of slavery, it's hard for us to consistently think of it in the historical context. We're always thinking of it in the American context. And the American context was you had effectively enslaved African people against their will and owned them as property. That form of slavery is explicitly prohibited by the Bible in 1 Timothy chapter 1, where it lists enslavers, which means kidnapping people and selling them as slaves, in the list of sinners. So the Bible always condemned the American form of slavery that we often think about.
And which is amazing, because it is actually the Christian worldview is what helped end slavery in America, which is another point for those of you who are watching who have been hit with this objection. I think that concludes it for this video. My name's Tyrus.
Austin Burton.
God bless, and catch you next time. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to please like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoyed Austin's videos, I'm going to leave one and a link in the description. You can check out his channel, which is
Owning for Jesus.
So God bless. Have a great day.